Okay, here we are with part 2 of Unit 1, and we'll go ahead and continue writing a very basic program. So I'm going to not even, as I said before, we have inputs, processing, and outputs. Here, the most simple thing in the world is just to have an output. So I'm going to put system.out. So you'll notice that it's recognizing each subsequent word after I press the start typing the word, so I can hit tab to finish the word. Then I can start the next word, hit tab, etc. So it's got some sort of IntelliSense going on to predict what I'm going to write. So we've got basic commands that are available to us through the Java library just by creating a file. So I've got system.out.print. Now, I can either go print line or I can go print. Print line, what that does is it creates a space to the next line. Okay, so it allows me to send a message but then go to the next line. If I just have print, then whatever happens, I don't go to the next line. I print whatever I print and then it stays on the same line. Now that's useful when we're prompting users for information. So keep that in mind. Don't just use print line all the time, or print ln as it is here. Okay, so that gives us a method to work with, and what do we want to do with that method? We just want to say something simple like hello world. Now you'll notice that I am writing a string, hello world, okay, and that string ends, and I've got spaces in between there. Now, any literal string like this has to have quotation marks around it. The quotation marks don't actually print. If we want to use actual printed quotation marks, like we're quoting somebody in something that we're writing, then we would have to make sure we use escape characters. We'll talk about escape characters later. So I've got a very basic thing here, I've got system.out.println hello world. Tab that over so it's more in line. Okay, and I'm just going to go ahead and simply run this. Okay, so down here is the output window. The output window is where we run things, where we see what happens, or where we interact if we have inputs that we have to enter. So this is essentially our interaction with the computer. There is no GUI, it is command line programming. Okay, so we've got hello world. So that's the most basic program you could possibly want. Well, let's say I want to make it a little bit more complicated. Let's say I want to add somebody's name, and I want to allow the computer program user to input that name. So then we do have inputs. Okay, so let's go ahead and I'm going to add this, try to copy something quick here. I've got this scanner that I want to capture, so I'm going to go Control-C and go to my other program and Control-V. And I'm going to use a scanner, but it's not enough for me to use the command scanner. IntelliJ senses that I need to import the scanner class to be able to use this. So I'm going to say yes, go ahead and import that class. Okay, as a recap, we've got the public class, we have the main method, and now two more things have been added. We had to import the java.util.scanner. We had to import that class to be able to create a scanner object, and that's what that is, a scanner object. So the scanner class being called in allows me to capture input from a user if I so desire, which I do. And in this class, we're often going to be doing that. So I just wanted to kind of put that out there. Now, one thing about this scanner is notice where it's declared. It's created above the main method. That means even if I create other methods in this program, it's going to be available on a global level, meaning it's in all the methods. If I had put it after this and put it down here, then only the main method would see it. Okay, so that's an important distinction. Okay, so I've got the scanner and I am creating a field for it called input. That's what I'm essentially calling the object that I'm going to be using. And I can call it anything I want. You'll see scanner objects often called SC for scanner, but input is a perfectly good one as well. And what do I want to do? Well, I want to say whoever's name gets entered, I'm saying hello to them instead of just generally hello world. Well, in order to do that, I need something called a variable. Now, variables are used in order to give memory locations a name. Now, why do we want to do that? Because we want to hold contents in that memory location. And we want sometimes those contents to be able to change, but not the goal of what that memory location is all about. So, for example, I want to use somebody's name. Now, each variable has a type. So, depending upon what the type is how that variable is going to be used. So, for example, in the case of what I'm doing here, I want to create a string variable. So I just say string and what? Well, name is a good variable for what I'm doing. So I've got string name. I hit semicolon. Okay? You see before I hit semicolon, it's underlined in red and main.java is underlined in red, meaning there's something wrong. It's not going to compile until I fix these errors. And the only error was when I have a statement, I have to end it with a semicolon. Now, you may be saying, well, I didn't have to end this public static void main with a semicolon. No, because this is a method declaration. Same with the class. It does not, it has curly braces. It does not get a semicolon. Okay, but name does. So now name is something that I can work with. Now you remember that I have a scanner object called input. And input is where I want to get the user's information. So we've got an example here. Okay. I'm going to go into a little bit more later on, but right now it shows us that I've got variable names. And I'm going to take one of those variable names and assign data to it. So I've got name is equal to input, because that is the name of my object, my input object, dot next line. Okay, there's all kinds of different methods to use to capture data from the user, and it depends upon what the data type is. So since I'm using a string, the next line is the method that's used to capture a string data. If I were using an integer, I would use next int. If I were using a double, it would be next double. So that's how we capture information. So I see my code is getting a little bit messy, and it would still execute fine, but I want everything to be aligned properly. So I'm going to select these areas and select Control L. Actually, that's Control Alt L. There it goes. Control Alt L. I had to select the proper area. Okay, so I've got now a variable called name. I have the input of the name, but what's missing? Well, if I run this program, the user doesn't know that they can enter somebody's name. And I haven't changed the output to allow for it. So I'm still going to get hello world. Running slow today. Very slow. Okay, so I had to go offline a minute. I was having to figure out what my issue was here. It didn't like that I had an input here, but I had no reference to getting that input. So essentially what I had to do, and this is something I was going to get to, but I didn't expect it would interrupt the processing, was I've got the system.out.print, as I said before, the distinguishment between the print and the print line. So I want somebody to enter their name. Please enter your name. Now notice how I put this. It's got to be in quotations. I have a quote and I have a space before I have the, or I have a colon and I have a space before I have the end quote. This allows for a space between the prompt for the username and whatever they enter. So now I've got what I had before this, name equals input.next line. So whatever they enter here, I'm capturing. The system didn't like it before because I was capturing something without somebody entering it. Okay. And so instead of just printing out hello world, what I want to do is do something called concatenation. Concatenation is the combining, and you're going to hear this word a lot, it's the combining of literal strings with variables. So instead of saying hello world, I want to say hello to whoever their name is. Now this is one of the beauties of programming and using variables. I don't have to have an actual name because they put in whatever name they want. So I'm going to say hello, and I'm going to say space, quote, plus, so you need the plus there, and then I want to have the person's name, so I'm going to use the name variable that I've created. So hello plus name, and then I want, let's say, a period. So I'm going to put a plus, and I'm going to put in quotes a period. That's a literal string as well. So notice that I've accounted for the space between hello and name, and then I have no space because I want a period right after it. So let's go ahead and run this. Okay, so it says please enter your name, space, I put Ty, and then it says hello Ty. Okay, so that is your first simple program. It's a good little thing to practice. As you're doing that, think about the things that we did in this. We have a scanner that we had to create so we could get input from the user. We have a variable, which is a named memory location. We had to import the scanner, which we were prompted to do so. And we had to get the scanner from the next line, input.nextLine, and then we input it with a combination of the literal string and the variable name.